All right, good morning. Hope everybody is doing well and gonna have a good Friday. So let me just refresh the feed, make sure it's showing up appropriately, and we will get started painting. There we go. This is Paint with Lovejoy, and we are gonna be painting a pond reflection today as a viewer request. And if you have any questions as we go through the process today, please feel free to leave a comment in the chat and I will look over on occasion and answer any questions while I am painting. So a little bit of what you're looking at on the screen right now. I am working on an 8x10 canvas. There we go, sit down. I'm working on an 8x10 canvas panel, so it's flat. You might be on a stretched canvas. And we have our our outline already on here. So you've got two options for this. You can either pause the video, draw what you see, and then pick up the video for the painting portion. Or, and there's a link in the description box below, you can purchase the Traceable, download it, print it out, and then transfer it to your surface via carbon paper. And the Traceables are a nice way for my first time beginner painters to get your initial composition on your canvas. That way you don't have to stress about drawing and you can jump right into painting. Now, whichever option you choose, totally cool. I'm just actually glad that you're painting and getting creative. So let me see who else is on here. Hi, Mike. Hi, Denise. Hi, Shauna. Hi, Neva. Awesome, awesome. So glad that you guys are here every morning and just appreciate the support. Okay, so for our painting today, there's going to be a lot of green. We kind of have a red boathouse with the red reflection. We've got a blue boat, and then we do have our water reflection here, and then a lot of greenery, a lot of trees, little dollop of blue sky shining through right here, and then a little bit in the reflection. So it's going to be a fun painting. We're going to get a couple of different techniques in, and then we get to do that stabbing method when we do the trees, and just very, very therapeutic and stress relieving. So to start off with, we're actually going to go ahead and start with our blue sky, the little bit of patch of blue sky that's coming through the trees and a little bit down here. Then we'll probably move into our house, our boat, and then we'll move into the green. And then like the other pond reflection one, we'll do a few of those little water lines to help give a difference of a look between the reflection and the actual trees that we'll be looking at. So to start off with, and because I'm on a smaller canvas, I've got, smaller sets of brushes, but if you're on a larger canvas, feel free to grab the brush appropriate for the size canvas you're using. To make our light blue, we're pulling some of our white aside. A little bit of blue goes a long way. So start off with a small amount of pigment, and like I said, we're just making a light blue. Now, for those of you painting at home, all I want you to do is just observe the placement and the shape of where I put each color, and then mimic that to the best of your ability. So here, we just kind of have this weird little section, and we're going to make it bigger than it actually is on the reference item. And as you go to apply your paint, try a few different brush strokes. You got a wide brush stroke, sideways, and then the one that you saw me do in the beginning, just kind of this nice back and forth X marks. So we're going to do this up here, make kind of a weird little abstract area. We will be overlapping our green foliage on top of this blue of the sky. But we're basically starting with kind of our furthest background areas, and then we'll be layering colors on top of it. And if you have to make your shade of blue 2 or 3 or 4 times, don't stress about getting the exact same shade. So we're just going to kind of mimic this right below. And again, I just kind of hover my brush right here, kind of move down over to where I want it, and then that's when we'll start making our X marks, or whichever brush stroke that you were finding comfortable this morning. And if you're working on a stretched canvas, I do recommend that you carry this color around the side, and that way when you hang it on the wall, it looks really nice having that color wrap around the edge compared to it just kind of stopping and then having that raw canvas there. All right, so for this, we're actually just going to kind of keep it the same shade of blue. We're not going to do any wet on wet blending like we do in other ones. Oh, cool. We got a lot of people jumping on. Excellent. Cool. All right, so and again, if you guys have any questions, please just let me know. All right, so we're going to clean that brush off. We are going to move into the house, our boat house, and then our little boat. So for our house, what we're going to do is I'm going to lay red into this area, and then we're going to go on top of it with probably the small pointy brush, and we're going to put some shadows, and we're going to put some highlights in there. And then we're going to have a brown roof. And I believe I forgot to write in the raw sienna on the color mixture in the description box, so I will change that at the end of the video. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to lay the direct red into our little boathouse, and then we'll put our shading on top of it. Now, if you want to change the color of anything in the painting or in any of the videos that I create, please feel free to do that. You can just use my video as merely kind of a suggestion, but switch out whatever you need. And if you're inclined to do something that I don't do, but your instincts are pushing you to do it, go right ahead and give it a try. With painting, if you paint something that you don't like, especially with acrylic paint, not so much watercolor paint, you just paint right on top of it. So acrylic paint is a very versatile medium. So I do want you to trust your instincts. And if you're inclined to paint something or change a color, go for it. Now, I tend to stick with the same brush, but because there is a good amount of detail in this painting, I will be switching back and forth between this brush and the pointy brush. But if you're already needing to use that pointy brush right now, go right ahead and switch brushes. I think we'll make the door a different color. All right, then we got a little bit of foliage right here, and then we have our windows, and they're lined with kind of like the white border. I cannot think about what that's called right now around the windows. The lattice, not lattice work, the frame of the window, that's what I'm going to call it right now. Some days my brain works better than others. Okay, so we have our base kind of red on there, and I'm going to go ahead and move into doing the blending, and then we'll kind of come down and repeat the process. And the reason I'm doing this is for a few of you at home that I know your paint dries a lot faster. So we're going to do this section and then move down to the other part of the house. So to make our shadows, I am moving down to the pointy brush. We're going to take a little bit of black paint, and I'm going to put it next to my red because the black's actually too intense by itself, but I do need a darker red. So I leave that there, grab a little bit of red, start mixing it, and that's actually still way too dark. There we go. This is closer to that color. So if you make something that's super dark like that, just make a new pile. So you can basically have a really dark burgundy that we're going to be using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it in a few areas on my boathouse. Then I'm going to wipe the brush off, and then I'll go back with light pressure and blend this new color into the base color. And this is called wet on wet blending. So we're going to put a little shadow right underneath the roof. And again, at home, just observe where I'm placing this and then mimic it to the best of your ability at home. And then this kind of frame the side for the front of the little boathouse. And then we're going to go under the front of the roof. And if you have to mix that dark red a second time, it doesn't have to be the exact same shade each time. So now going right underneath that roof, we're going to get one on the back of the house and then down there. Now I'm going to wipe this brush off. You don't necessarily need to clean it, but we just need it dry and not that much paint on there. And you've got two options for how you can blend this in. You can kind of place your brush on here, and with light pressure, you're just going to kind of squish it into that base red, and you will notice that it kind of changes colors a little bit. Or a method that's been very therapeutic and just fun to do, I call it the stabbing method, and it's where you just kind of dot your brush, and it's actually easier if you do this one with the bigger brush. But what this does is, again, it kind of squishes the colors together and softens the transition between the two. Please keep in mind that if you do the dotting stabbing method, it will ruin your brush, the ends of your bristles, faster. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right. So kind of have our base. Now I'm going to wash this off. We're going to move into the roof, and then we'll move down here, and then we're going to we've got nice white borders on this house. So, actually, I take that back, sorry. We're going to do here with the red first, and then the roof. Got a little ahead of myself there. All right, so now we're moving into that reflection, and we're going to put some shadows on there. And this one doesn't have to be perfect because again, you're imagining that the water's rippling. So it's not an exact design or exact replica of what's above the water, but just kind of mimicking what's there and gives a hint that we've got this reflection happening. All right, so again, you're just mimicking what you see and having fun. That's the most important thing. And this one, when we do a little bit of the shading, you can be a little sloppier with it. Again, because it is having that reflection kind of just float by in the water. So since I have enough of that dark red still made, I'm just going to use that. But if you need to mix your dark red a second time, again, don't stress about the exact same shade. And we're literally going to kind of put this in the same area. It's just upside down for this one. So again, underneath the roof line, and then you can even kind of see where this line is, hover your brush above it, and then bring it down to get that front of that house shadow. And then we're just going to kind of blend it in, whichever method you are finding comfortable. All right. And just looking to see if we have any questions. Awesome, we got some new people. Hi, Anita and Brent. Let me scroll up real quick in case I missed anybody. Hi, V. All right. And Photography Queen, cool. All right, I think I need to go get my eyes checked and get some glasses. All right, so now we're gonna clean the brush out really good. And I'm actually gonna go ahead and just clean both of them. Then we're gonna move to the roof. So I'm gonna use our raw sienna here with a little bit of white. Just toning it down just a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and do both at the same time. If you are at home with paint that dries faster, do what we did for the house, where you just do one section, do all your shading, and then do the other section. And if you are using student grade paint like I am, yours might be on the transparent side like mine is as well. So you've got two options. You can apply your paint a little bit thicker, and when you apply it a little bit thicker, kind of see how I'm holding the brush right now at kind of a 45-degree angle instead of perpendicular to the canvas. And at that 45-degree angle, you can apply it a little bit thicker, and then you're less likely to get the brush strokes that show up from the ends of the bristles. All right, so with this same thing, we're gonna put some shadows on there. So I'm gonna take a little bit of the black, put it next to the color I was using, and just gonna, whoops, that's way too much. Let me wipe off my brush. I'll make a new pile right here. And that's still darker than I want it to, so again, making a new pile. There we go. All right, and this shadow is actually gonna hang out kind of on the top. And again, hold that brush kind of at that 45-degree angle, light pressure, so you can keep it a little bit smoother. Or if you like kind of the expressive brush strokes, play with that and kind of play with maybe the direction that your mark making is going. So you can kind of work the brush strokes that are showing up into your design. All right. So just getting a quick hint of a shadow on there. Now I did clean the brush off really good. We're gonna go to white paint. We're gonna put a highlight on the roof, and then we're gonna come in and get those doors and those windows in there. So taking that white paint, and you'll notice that your light colors diffuse very quickly when you do this wet on wet blending. So you will be more generous with your white color pigments compared to your darker colors. So once you've kind of slapped that white on there, wipe your brush off again. Whichever blending method that you are finding fun today, stick with that as you blend the lighter color into the roof. And again, this color is going to change the more that you move your brush and blend it into it. So if you end up moving your brush a lot and you lose that transition, just reapply your white and do it again, but just with less brush strokes. Okay, so let's give this guy a blue door so that way it can match the boat. And I'm going to go for a bit darker blue than what this is, kind of go for a medium blue. So I'm going to throw a little more white on there just because I need that base color. And we're going for about a 1-to-1 ratio mixture. And again, if you want to change the color and have a different shade of blue, go right ahead. So we're going to fill in the doorway. And I'm just going to go right over this pole because it will be dry, and I'll put it in there. And if you are painting quick like I am and your red paint is still wet, be conscious as you are coming close to it. And if you get a little bit of that red mixed in with your blue paint, you can take a paper towel and wipe it off and then reapply your paint, or just kind of blend it in and you'll get a little bit of a purplish color. So it'll change a little bit. Your call. All right, this is going to look like a weird shape right now since I am doing both the boat and the reflection filling it in. The shadows that we add will give the distinction between the reflection and the actual object. But sometimes in art, if you stop and look at it halfway through, it does look like weird stuff. So don't judge your artwork in the middle of the painting process. All right. Cool. Just looking over to see if there's any other questions. I like that we've got such a wide geographic range of you guys that are watching the videos. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Okay, so with this brush, we're actually just wipe off a little bit of that extra paint. I'm going to take just that direct dark blue because it is much darker than the blue I was just using. If you went ahead and used that dark blue, then make your blue a little bit darker by adding a tiny amount of black. But you do want to go darker than what you were just using. And here, right at the bottom of the boat, painting right on top of it, and I'm going to blend that up towards the boat. And then we're going to put a little dot on the top of the door and along the side. And then again, wipe that brush off. Light pressure here, and again, I'm going to kind of blend it up towards the boat, not the reflection. All right, and same thing here, just kind of squishing that paint into it. And you will notice as you do kind of more landscape compositions that have more small details or a lot of little details, you'll end up using the small pointy brush a lot more, which is good because then you get more control with your brush, how you apply it, and it's just good practice. All right, so let's see, we've got our windows here. And on my reference photo, they are kind of reflecting the sky a little bit, even though there is so much greenery around. So I'm going to go back to that light blue, similar to what we were using in the beginning. We're going to fill this in. And we'll do the same for the reflection. And again, if you're holding your breath, remember to breathe. Relax. I'm really proud of you for painting. All right, so now I'm grabbing a little bit of that direct blue, pretty intense. You're gonna place it on the top and right-hand side of the windows. Nope, I forgot that here, so let's just throw that on there. Again, for the reflection, it does not have to be the exact representation. All right, and I kind of like a little bit more of that harsh line, so I'm not going to mix it in too much, but I am going to just place my brush on the transition between the two colors and then just light pressure just so I can soften it a little bit. And then I'll wipe my brush off, do the same thing on each one. Oops, there went my brush. All right, so I'm going to let that dry a little bit. We will put window cross marks on top of there with white. We will get that perimeter with white as well on both of those, so that will clean up a little bit more. Going back to our boat, mine is still wet, so hopefully yours is too. I'm going to put a highlight on the actual boat on the top right here. And again, just placing that color. And then on the reflection, not next to the bottom of the boat, but again, kind of on the top of that boat, we're going to put a little bit of a highlight. And then again, wipe that brush off. Light pressure, we're just squishing that white into the blue. All right. And as you paint, please get in the habit of getting out of your chair, walking about 5 to 10 feet away, you know, maybe prop your painting up if you need to, and look at your painting from that distance. That is the normal viewing distance for most things in life. So as you're creating, you have to start looking at your artwork that way as well. So on our boat, we have a little bit that we can see on the inside of the boat, and that's pretty dark. So I'm going to take that direct blue, just a tiny bit of black, mix it in there, and we're just going to kind of place it right on the top. And as you are working in these smaller spaces with the pointy brush or smaller brushes, mind the pressure of your brush. A lighter pressure, treating your brush kind of like a pencil and using just the tip of it will make it easier to make smaller lines. But again, this is just something that as you get more and more comfortable with the painting process, your muscles are going to get more comfortable with holding the brush. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, let's actually get our dock in there first before we move on to our green, and then the good majority of the remaining space on the canvas will be filled in with shades of green. And that's going to be a lot of fun because we're going to do a lot of the stabbing method. Okay, so back to that pointy brush. Oh, and that was the one that dropped. Good thing I have got an extra. We're going to go, we've got our little dock poles here and then the base of the dock. So just like we did with the roof, I'm going to take that raw sienna. This time I'm going to use the direct raw sienna and then we'll go darker compared to using the lighter version. And I'm going to paint right over the poles, bring this right up next to the boat. And then we do have a bit, let's get those poles on there. We have a bit darker that we're going to go. There we go. All right, so a bit darker, we're going to take that brown with that touch of black. There we go. Again, that's going to go in between, and this is like the shadow, the side of the dock. All right, again, just an illusion that we've got space. We're going to have some foliage that goes over that. All right, okay. All right, so now let's get into our foliage. We're going to start with our light colors first. We're going to be starting with the yellow and a touch of green. Then we'll get a little bit darker, and I'm looking, there is a little bit of a difference in the reflection, but that's all right. So we'll start with our light ones, get a little bit darker, and then we'll actually go back to the light areas to put back on top of some of the darks, again, giving us contrast. All right, and I'm going to be pretty generous with the application because I'm using student grade paint. So we're starting with that yellow, add just a small amount of the green. We've had a few paintings, demos, practice of getting this color. That little Yoda and the tree frog, both were pretty limey green. That was fun. All right, so what we're going to do here, again, we're kind of creating some weird shapes, and whatever I do above the horizon line, I'm going to kind of mimic in a similar area below the horizon line. So let's see, we've got a nice big blob happen here on the corner, and literally all I'm doing is slapping it on here. I am holding my brush at that 45-degree angle. When we do some blending, maybe I'll put it more at a 90-degree angle. If you want to finger paint doing this, go right ahead, give it a try. If you want to try a different tool or application, go for it. All right, so let's see, we've got a big, and I think when I made this color, there's a bit more green in there. So again, don't stress if your shades change a little bit each time you make it. a little more yellow to this one. So now we're going to go below that horizon line. We'll start over here. And then again, this one's kind of hanging around the corner of that house. All right, coming along. And basically all I'm going to keep doing is just adding more green, going a little bit darker. So just go 2 shades darker than what you were using, even if it's a slightly different shade than what I'm using. Just go a little bit darker than your color. And if you mix your color and then maybe you apply a few here on the canvas and you go, oh, that's not dark enough, go ahead, readjust your color. There's nothing wrong with adjusting once you've applied a few little brush strokes. And the reason you want to do that, or the reason that you're inclined to adjust it, is something that we call color theory. You can mix a color here on your plate and it's going to look one way, but when you get it on here on your canvas, it's going to look, the same color looks a little bit different next to the blue compared to next to the green. And like I said, that's color theory. We interpret our colors based on the color right next to it. So that's why everybody sees shapes and colors a little bit differently. We all have different interpretations. And I like it once we start getting to this point and there's not much white canvas space left. It starts feeling better. It starts looking better. And again, that's part of the process of painting, you know, your emotions, how it goes, how it's created, what you're putting into it. And again, that's why art is such a personal exploration. And today's painting, we do have complementing colors hanging out. We've got some other colors, but green and red are complementing colors. So you can, I do have a color wheel video on my YouTube channel. So you can check that out and see how you can use your primary colors to make all your other colors. Okay, so now we've got to go below our horizon line on our water. Fill in our last bit of our green. And then we're going to go back and put some more layers on top and we'll get the that trim on the house done. And again, as you move into tighter spaces, if I'm using a larger brush but you need a different size brush, please adjust. And like I said, no matter what you guys paint, whether you change the colors, keep it the same, please email me photos of what you paint. I've been putting a lot of the student photos together as a collage and they're getting great feedback on social media. And everybody will believe you when you tell them that they can paint and give them my website or my YouTube channel. But very few people actually believe me when I tell them that I can teach them to paint. So I do need your guys' help to spread the word and get more and more people painting. And with more and more people painting, hopefully they find the therapeutic and stress relieving qualities of painting and they become more stress-free people. And that's what I want in this world, more stress-free people. We've got enough stresses to deal with. All right, so we've got our filled in our foliage right next to our boathouse and on the reflection. We're going to go a little bit darker green for this area. Then we're going to start filling in and put more layers on top of this. All right, so I'm actually just going to use that direct green. Again, I'm just applying it a little bit thicker because of my student grade paint. And because this channel is geared towards first-time and beginner painters, I paint with the same paint that I recommend you to use. But there is a difference, and as you get more comfortable with painting, maybe one color at a time, jump up to artist grade paint just to try the difference. It's a really nice kind of buttery consistency. I am filming some intermediate classes, and I will be using artist grade paint in there. And I'm going to recreate probably the top 5 videos currently on my channel. So I'll do the Starry Night and the Frida, and I think one of the Monets in student grade or artist grade paint, basically exact same composition and more detail. And then that way you can look at the difference between kind of what a first-time painter is capable of, and then as you improve your skills and get better and better, try some of the intermediate stuff. So that's basically my business plan for the rest of the year. Okay, so as we're going to go and add more details on top of this, we're going to go in with some green, some different shades. We'll be mixing green and blue, green and black, and just applying more details on top of this. So with that green all by itself, I'm literally, because my paint's still pretty wet, we are going to kind of glob it on here. It'll be kind of like that walk in the rain demo that we did a couple weeks ago, which was actually a lot of fun to just slap these intense, big, kind of bold brush strokes, very impressionistic style. And again, this is one that as you look at from the distance, you have much more appreciation for it. All right, let's get some of that dark here, kind of on that line, closer towards, or going up from the water reflection. We'll leave that down here. All right, so now we're going to mix a little bit of green and black. And again, remember that black goes a long way, and we just need our green a little bit darker. And if you did make your green, like if it was actually darker than you wanted to be, because your paint's still so wet, it will change a little bit as you blend this into it. And again, if you're inclined to put a shadow or a color somewhere, I do not, or if you want to put flowers in your landscape, go for it. Just change it and make it fun, make it yours. All right, and then we do have some foliage that's kind of overlapping where our sky is, and this is where I'm going to hold the brush a little more perpendicular and just kind of tapping, but I'm also going to twirl the brush as I do the tapping, so I'm not making the exact same mark over and over and over again. And again, just kind of twirl that brush a little bit. And you can do this with a few of the other colors as well, and I'll go back to the green and do that. And doing that a little bit down here as well. I don't want to take up too much of that sky, so I still want to leave that blue that's poking through. All right, and I'm going through and looking to see if I have any places where there's a little bit of white canvas showing through, and just making sure that there's some form of color on there. I know we haven't done the border of the house yet or the frames on the windows. We will. And we still have to do our little water lines on here. So doing a few more things on the foliage, and then we'll be moving into that area. And today at 2 o'clock, I will be doing a San Diego Humane Society Facebook Live little demo, and it's going to be that hummingbird that I've done for these demos. I think they just added a hummingbird to their logo to incorporate Project Wildlife. But if you'd like to check that out and support them, it's going to be on the San Diego Humane Society Facebook page at 2 o'clock. All right, so now I'm actually going to go back into that yellow, And I'm not going to mix it with the green as much because my paint is still so wet. So it's going to mix as I do the kind of the stabbing method. So we'll do it a little bit here, and it starts to fuse and change colors. So what you might want to do is if it diffuses too much, then you're going to have the green on your brush. Wipe that off and then go back and grab the yellow paint again. And I like putting the yellow kind of on top of some of the green areas because it gives a little bit of that pop of color. This would be considered a bit of a highlight. And again, it's just nice sometimes to just stab your brush on the canvas. Any anxiety, any frustrations, take them out on your canvas. It's what it's for. You'll feel better afterwards and more capable of tackling whatever it is that you need to tackle without causing harm to yourself or others. But do what you got to do to take care of yourself as you go through all these crazy times that we're all going through. Transitions. Okay, ooh, let's get a little bit of highlights here on our the bushes by the house. And it will be interesting when we add our white pops of color, how much the white changes and how much the painting kind of comes together in the last 10%. To this day, that still amazes me, how it all comes together. All right, oh, we do have a question. I was wondering if we were going to go through the whole day without a question on painting, except for how are you? So Denise, yeah, I haven't released the doodles yet, but I'm going to try to do the teaching the drawing in steps. So doodles are a great way to practice. And then I do have the simple grid method drawing on there, and that's great for the line drawings, kind of like our traceables. And then I will get into more in-depth drawing classes. I do not know when I will have those done, unless I can duplicate myself to create more quickly. But I will definitely let you guys know when I get those up and ready. Okay, so let's actually look in the... Okay, yeah, I'm looking on the phone. So when you look through your phone, it's the same thing as looking at it at the distance. So we're going to go ahead and move back to the pointy brush, and we're going to get into that trim work. So I'm going to start by just putting pure white on there, and then we might do a little bit of shadows, and then we're going to do the reflection lines on our lake. And then that should bring us into the conclusion of the painting. So this will probably be a 50-minute demo. At 2 o'clock, I have to make sure it's a half hour. So that was actually the reason why I started doing a lot of the demos, just so I could get the practice. And it's turned into where we've done this every day. And I think we're at like 65 paintings that I've done. It's almost over 2 months of actual painting every single day live for a teaching purpose. So that's been good. I'm probably going to keep this up doing daily, probably at least till the end of the summer. And then the fall, I might look into doing maybe 5 days a week instead of 7, but I'll reassess then. I paint every day anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But we'll see, you know, we don't need to work 24/7. All right, so basically just using the pure white on top of these few little areas, and I'm adding the window frames. And again, switch colors if you want. Make it your own. Make it awesome. All right, and then we do have little lines going across the window. Again, remember to breathe as you're doing the tiny lines. It does not help. And if you are finding that you are shaking as your brush touches the canvas, exhale as you touch the canvas with the brush. Your hand shakes because you are holding your breath. Okay, so we're going to do the little water ripple lines, and it's a fairly calm day, but there was a little bit of a wiggle in the water. We're going to do this with white first, then light blue, and then pure blue. And as you're doing this, don't think about it too much, and I want you to do quite a few of them before you look back and look at it from a distance and judge it. So for the reflections, I'm not going to go over the actual boat, but I will be going over the boat reflection, the house reflection, and then all the tree reflections. And I'm going to hold my brush kind of sideways, again, that 45-degree angle, and it's just a little bit of a wiggle. So you're imagining that as you would look at water, you can sometimes see the ripple lines, and that indicates that we've got movement on the water. So I want you overlapping these ripple lines over the boat. That's what gives the illusion that we're breaking that surface line. And make sure some of your lines go off the edges of the canvas, because when you're painting, we're basically giving the viewer a snapshot, but we want them to imagine that there's so much more happening outside of the picture that you just created to represent, you know, whatever it is that you're representing. And then again, as you do these, look at them from a distance, see how they're translating. And keep in mind that as you paint, you are a magician. You are creating this illusion of a 3D object in space on a flat surface. So we have done some illogical things to make this illusion happen. So once you kind of have your white lines on there, we're going to go in with light blue next. And kind of same thing, they can overlap a little bit of the white lines, and they're still overlapping the scene that's underneath it. And then again, have some of them going off the edges of the canvas. I'm going to get up and look at my phone in just a minute, see how it's translating. And then we're going to do this one more time with pure blue. Again, just giving that, breaking up the space and giving 3 values. All right, it's looking like a reflection. Cool. And I'm going to do something, we're going to put an extra highlight on the boat. I want that to stand out a little bit more. And then we'll put a little highlight on those little poles. All right, so now the pure blue. And if you want more high contrast, you can kind of make sure they go right underneath some of those white lines, and then have a few that hang out by themselves. And the illusion that we're making right now is with these light blue lines going over our design, that's telling our brain that, oh, there's something on top of it. That is a reflection. So a lot of times in art, what we see, 100% of the details are never there. I would say probably 30 to 50% of the details are usually there that you need, and then your brain fills in the rest of the information. So that's why you're magicians. All right. Looking good. Nice. Okay, so we got some more questions now. Probably after I said I was wondering if we were going to go through questions or not. So my favorite thing to paint, I'll give you one guess based on the abundance of subject matters on my YouTube channel. And I'll come back and answer. Oh, glad you guys are liking it. Cool. And glad you guys like the colors. So my favorite thing to paint are animals. It's been that way since I was a kid. I started off with colored pencils and pastels and chalks and worked my way up to painting. And then when I was in college, that's when I got into the knife painting. Portraits of humans are one of the consistent things that I will decline to paint. It's my own personal issue that I don't like painting humans, so I don't. Yes, dogs and pretty much all wildlife. I figured, and everybody wanted me, when the Paint Your Pet class was so popular, everybody wanted me to paint human portraiture as well. And I actually had quite a few ladies that told me that their husband was their pet and that's what they wanted to paint. And I said, that's the only animal I decline teaching how to paint. Humans have a lot more nuances and little things to get correct, because if you don't get the portrait to look like the person that you know that they look like, it's going to mess with you forever. But animals have a big wiggle room of acceptability, and you're going to look at it and go, oh, that's my dog. But if you don't get the nose right or the eyebrows or something on a portrait painting, it doesn't look right. So I refer people who want to do that to other teachers. Ooh, peacock butterfly. That would be cool too. Yes, and a straight up peacock. So I will add those to the list. Thanks for the suggestion. And let's see. Oh, let's do something to make that boat stand out. And I believe I was talking while I did this. So I took the white and the yellow, or the white and the raw sienna, and just on these little pillars, just a few little highlights on the top and right hand side of it, and then the top of that little deck. I apologize, I talked through that. All right, so a little bit of white. I'm going to make this highlight a little more intense on the top of the boat. So keep that light pressure. And then just by making that bottom just a touch darker, I'm going to grab that blue and black mixture. There we go. I just wanted a bit more contrast for that. All right, let's see if there's any other foliage that I should add. I think we are at the conclusion. Yeah, and we're at about 50 minutes, so not bad. Again, feel free to change anything that you want for the painting, add more to it. I'm just going to put a few bolder highlights here. Let's see, let's actually grab a little bit of white for that. So taking a little bit of white. Some of my paint is still wet, so it's kind of changing the shade of that white a little bit. But just trying to get one more quick little highlight in there. And then if you go, oh, I went too far, did too much, grab your other color, just come back and you can kind of diffuse it. I do have the tendency sometimes, and I know other people that I've talked to that paint, that you'll do really good and then sometimes you get tired towards the end of your painting and you do a few things that you're like, I wish I had stopped before I did that. So if you are getting to that groove, and I've done it on many a paintings, step away from your painting, let it sit for a minute and kind of come back to it. And I know that's easier said than done. But if you do this painting and then maybe you put it away and then come back and you go, oh, I want more green here, grab out, pull out the paint and just add another couple layers on here. So you don't have to do everything in one sitting. You could paint a little bit today, come back and paint a little bit more later on or the next day. All right, so let me take a quick look in the phone. All right, oh, this looks kind of blobby. All right, so I think this is pretty good for what we did today. Any suggestions that you want me to paint in the future, please let me know. And yeah, check out all the other videos on my channel. Keep painting. Please share this with your friends and family. That is the biggest support that you can do for me, get more people painting. If you would like to be financially contributing to Paint with Lovejoy, there's information in the link in the description box below. And yeah, we'll keep this going. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Thanks so much. Cheers.